Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Demented Robot Games channel, YouTube channel that some of you may already know is dedicated to modern board and card games. Today, I want to make an unusual video for you guys. Up to this point, I have been making board game review videos only, but recently I've been playing with this idea of making a special series of videos, and this is the first video in that series of videos, where I'm simply going to compare two games that are somehow comparable, that somehow scratch the same itch, that are somehow in the same ballpark, let's say, and just create some sort of death match between those two games and simply see which one of those two games wins, okay? I came across this idea because, I had such troubles myself. When I came across a couple of games that were very similar to each other and I just didn't know which one to buy for my own collection because they were very similar. I did not want to waste money buying both of them, but I just wanted to figure out which one I will end up buying for my collection, okay? So by making these videos, I'm hoping to help you guys decide between two very similar games, and just if you want to listen to my opinion, just to see which one I like better and why, okay? So that's it, basically. That's the idea behind these videos. So this was a little introduction since this is the first video in this series. So I felt I should just explain what this is. Without much further ado, let's compare two games for today. So the death match, the fight, the boxing match, call it what you want. The duel between two games today is going to be the duel between Imperial Settlers and 51st State Complete Master Set. Now, these two games are very similar to each other. They were released by the same publisher. And for the sake of this video, I'm just going to assume that you guys know a little bit of both games, because this is not going to be a video where I will explain how these games work entirely. This is just going to be a comparison between these two games. These games are very similar because they are based on the same basic principle. Both games are card games. In both games, you are building your engine through building your tableau. You're placing these cards that represent these buildings, these locations on the table, and you are simply trying to build the engine that will work efficiently and you will try to earn more points than the other players. You will produce these resources that you will spend to be able to do stuff. You will have production building feature buildings. You will have action buildings. Both of these games have all these elements that I have just mentioned. But there are a couple of differences which may look insignificant or superficial, but believe me when I tell you they are not. Because they may seem like small differences, but they make for two games that feel, to me personally, very different from each other. And playing experience that I've had with these two games is pretty different for me personally. So let me tell you right off the bat which game I like better of the two. I definitely prefer 51st State Complete Master Set. It is a better game for me, hands down, for two main reasons, okay? There's only two reasons, but two very significant reasons why this is a better game, okay? First reason is the fact that 51st State Complete Master Set will not be played over the course of a fixed number of rounds, okay? 51st State Complete Master Set will end as soon as one player reaches or exceeds 25 points on the scoreboard, okay? Which means that the game can last longer or it can last shorter. In this game, you're essentially racing against time and you're racing against other players, as opposed to Imperial Settlers, where you are basically aware at the very beginning of the game, each game, that you're going to play exactly 5 rounds. So you can plan accordingly. In 51st State Complete Master Set, you do not have the benefit of knowing exactly when the game is going to end, okay? Which is very important, because if you are building this clunky, complicated, big engine where you will be able to score massive points, but If it takes too much time to build this engine, that just won't do, because another player may build a quicker engine, maybe a more simple one, a rudimentary one, but it will work quickly, it will be built quickly, and it will start generating those victory points earlier. So by the time your engine is over, this other player will have created too many victory points and you won't be able to catch up. Okay? So, racing against time and racing against other players is a very important factor in 51st State, and it stimulates you not to play random cards just for the sake of having as many of them as you can. It stimulates you to actually play meaningful cards, cards that will synergize with each other, that will create a clever engine when they work together, because you cannot afford to waste resources and or time. Okay? So that's the first factor why I think this is a better game. The second factor, and more important one, is that 51st State does not allow you to build buildings, to place cards on the table, let's put it that way, to place cards on the table directly for resources. You cannot do that. Which is the case in Imperial Settlers. In Imperial Settlers, you build directly for resources. You pay resources, you place a building or a card on the table. In 51st State, you cannot do that. In 51st State, you play cards in various different ways for these contact tokens, which you must generate. So you must transform your resources into these contact tokens and use those to play cards on the table. And you will never have a lot of contact tokens. The game does not allow you to create a brutal amount of contact tokens. You will always have a limited amount. So the game makes you really think twice before you play a card on the table, because you don't want to waste resources on insignificant cards, okay? And that's very important, because there's one additional layer to this game, you see? You have to think about how you will obtain contact tokens. That's one additional layer of the game. And then you don't have a huge amount of those tokens. So you have to use them very wisely and play only those cards that contribute to your engine. Playing useless cards will not win you the game. Which very easily may be the case in Imperial Settlers. Because in Imperial Settlers, if you have a huge production and if you're producing a huge amount of resources, you will then be able to play huge amount of cards on your table. You know, so even if you have 0 points at the end of the 5th round, you will be able to still win the game simply by having a huge amount of cards on your tableau. And those cards don't even have to make sense. They don't even have to constitute a clever engine. As long as you have a lot of them, you have a chance of winning. The only reason for that is because you're building directly for resources, okay? So these are two most important reasons why I think 51st State Complete Master Set is a significantly better game than Imperial Settlers. Because it makes you think, it makes you play clever combination of cards. It really stimulates you to build that engine, not to just play meaningful cards, okay? And it can be quicker and it can be shorter. It can be more dynamic to play, which means that it automatically can support playing with more players, because you won't have as much downtime since the game can be quicker. Not to mention the fact that it's much more beautiful, has much more beautiful artwork. I know that shouldn't be the main factor why you will choose this game over the other, but that's also a contributing factor. All in all, 51st State, in my personal opinion, is a better game of the two, hands down. Now, I'm not saying that Imperial Settlers is a bad game. If 51st State didn't exist, I would still play Imperial Settlers, and I would still have fun with it. But if I have to choose between the two, and if I have to recommend one of these two for you guys to pay attention to, I would definitely say pay attention to 51st State, because it is a better game. Okay, that's all I had to say for today. I hope this video was helpful to you guys, at least to those of you who were wondering which one of these two games you want to buy for your own collection. I hope this was helpful. Of course, you don't have to agree with me. It's perfectly okay. I know that some of you guys will prefer Imperial Settlers, and that's perfectly okay. But this is just my personal opinion for what it's worth, okay? Thank you for watching this video. I hope I'll be able to make more of these videos in the future, of these videos where I compare games. If you like what you saw, please comment down below. Suggest which two games I should compare. And I will. If I can get my hands on both of those games, I will. Of course, what you have to pay attention to is that two games are comparable. You cannot compare two games that are not in the same ballpark. So something about them must scratch the same itch, so to speak, so that I can compare them. Okay? Feel free to suggest. Thank you for watching, viewing, liking, subscribing, whatever. Keep supporting me. You guys are great. And I'll be seeing you next time. Goodbye.